Coming to you from deep inside the bowels of a great big empty. Get ready for another episode of The Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show, and I'm your host, Skip Coryell, author of 22 books, Marine Corps veteran, founder of the Second Amendment March, proud father of 7, grandfather to 19 and counting, and as a special bonus, I'm also madly in love with my own wife. My priorities in life are God, family, and country in that order, and I hereby promise to never compromise in my convictions. I may go broke, but I'll never go woke. And joining me today is my faithful co-host, Sara Coryell. Sara, I need to be honest with the viewers here. A while back, it came to my attention that in my intro, I always say, grandfather to 19 and counting.
Yeah.
And then I added them all up, and I only had 18.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, do I go ahead? Do I... just admit that, okay, I miscounted, because it's like, I'm kind of like lying every week when I say that, right? But then I thought,
Unless you want to count one of the dogs.
well, no, I don't count the dog, but I just got to thinking, you know what? We're going to have more.
Well,
I'll just wait until one of my daughters gets pregnant again. And then, then it'll be 19.
Right.
And lo and behold, what happened this last week? Didn't I tell you? Whoops, I'm in trouble. All right. My daughter,
Which one's pregnant?
Marissa, is pregnant.
What?
Yes, I know. She, how many kids does she has? She has 9.
She has 9. I guess she's
And,
got
well,
10.
now she has 10. She's due in November. So, and at the point of conception, that's when I count them as a life, as
Absolutely.
a soul.
Yeah.
So I have 19
Wow.
grandchildren.
So
I knew she wouldn't let me down. She already had 9, and she took, like a year and a half off to heal from the last one. So
Wow.
19 grandchildren
19.
and
Okay.
counting.
Excellent. Well, congratulations to Marissa and Chad and all.
Oh, yes. All right. Sara, what's on the show this week?
Today we are talking to Cynthia Hogg, author of the new book, Miracle on the Mayflower, John Howland's remarkable rescue and lasting impact on America. Then, in the shootingclasses.com self-defense report, we'll be speaking with self-defense instructor Vann Winn from Reticent Warrior Tactics in our shootingclasses.com self-defense report.
Yeah, I like talking to Vann Winn from Georgia. He's from northern Georgia, and he's got that accent, right?
It's great.
And it's just a different culture down there. It's we've been down there before. It's just kind of laid back and slow.
My memory of Georgia wasn't large enough to just talk about their culture. We were stuck in a 6-lane traffic jam and had to,
well, when you get off the beaten track, and walk into a mom and pop store, in the Appalachians, it's different.
That's different.
Yeah. We need, as soon as our school bus is up and ready,
Spend
I'm
some time in
taking you
Georgia.
down, northern Georgia, Virginia, Tennessee, North Carolina.
Somewhere in there.
Yep, we're
All right.
going down there.
Okay. Well, I look forward to it.
But before we get too far into the show, let's thank our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, shootingclasses.com, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range, and Apple Tree Media. All right, so what's in the news today, Sara?
Today, we're talking about a bill which is taking aim at the IRS that would strip the agency of guns and ammunition. While American taxpayers are familiar with the annual rigmarole of filing their federal taxes and realizing just how much of their hard-earned money Uncle Sam is taking away, several House Republicans are pushing a proposal to take some things away from the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, guns and ammunition. The Why Does the IRS Need Guns Act would disarm the federal agency.
That's a good title. I like it.
I love it. It's a great title. This act would disarm the federal agency, prohibiting the Commissioner of Internal Revenue from using funds to buy, receive, or store firearms and ammunition, and requiring the transfer of IRS firearms and ammunition to the Administrator of General Services. The guns would then be sold or auctioned to licensed dealers, and the ammo would be auctioned to the public. Proceeds would go to the general fund of the Treasury for the sole purpose of deficit reduction, the measure stipulates.
I like that. I like the deficit reduction. I don't like the IRS having guns because there's an inference there. It's like if you have a gun, that's implying that you need a gun or that you're going to use a gun. Why would accountants need guns? They're auditing my tax return and then they're going to come to my house with guns?
Yeah, that's kind of what the inference
I
is,
mean,
isn't it? That's really
they
scary.
already have enough power.
They're,
I mean,
we're
people.
trying to do what they want. It's just so complicated. If they'd
Yeah, I
simplify it a
know,
little, it
I
might be better.
know. It's like they're getting, free guns, free ammo, free training, because you have to assume that they're getting some training, right?
I would hope so, actually. I mean, if you're going to have guns, you should be trained on
Well,
them.
I don't know. I kind of like the IRS to be really bad shots if they're coming after me.
Yeah, but they might just be dangerous and I don't know.
I know. I'm sorry to interrupt, but the IRS. I mean, they're the three letters in the alphabet that terrorize Americans most are IRS because they've been weaponized to such a degree
Yeah.
in our culture.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think I'm more afraid of the IRS than I am the FBI.
Well, the IRS touches you every year directly.
Well, yeah,
The
and
FBI,
it's
you might go your whole life without really interacting with them.
yeah because you're supposed to have commit like a violent crime. That's what you think of with an FBI,
Mhm.
right? And it's pretty easy to not murder somebody or to not kidnap someone, but you can do accounting crime or a tax crime without even knowing that you did it.
Yeah, that's the scary part. Yeah, it's still a crime. You just
Yeah.
over
All
here.
right. Carry
All right,
on.
carry
Sorry
on.
to
All right.
interrupt.
No problem. No problem. The bill states that there are transferred to the Department of Justice the authorities, functions, personnel, and assets of the Criminal Investigation Division of the Internal Revenue Service, which shall be maintained as a distinct entity within the Criminal Division of the Department of Justice, including the related functions of the Secretary of the Treasury. Representative Barry Moore, Republican of Alabama, introduced the measure, which is backed by three original co-sponsors, GOP Representatives Harriet Hageman of Wyoming, Mary Miller of Illinois, and Clay Higgins of Louisiana. The IRS says on its website that its mission is to provide Americans taxpayers top quality service by helping them understand and meet their tax responsibilities, and to enforce the law with integrity and fairness to all. The IRS has consistently been weaponized against American citizens, targeting religious organizations, journalists, gun owners, and everyday Americans, Moore asserted, according to a press release. Arming these agents does not make the American public safer. My legislation, the Why Does the IRS Need Guns Act, would disarm these agents, auction off their guns to the federal firearms license owners, and sell their ammunition to the public. The only thing IRS agents should be armed with are calculators. In an April 15th post on X, Moore noted, "Tax day is a great reminder that it's time for the IRS to stop wasting our taxpayer dollars stockpiling guns and ammunition."
Amen. Amen.
Good plan. It is a
Yeah,
very, very good
calculators.
plan.
Give them a calculator and let them do their job. But
Oh, yeah.
man, every alphabet soup agency in the federal government, they have guns, they have ammunition, they have training, they've got body armor, they've got armored personnel vehicles. You know, the Department of Education has a SWAT team. Why do they need a SWAT team? Were they bringing in a truant?
Oh, I know. It's scary. It is scary.
It is scary.
'Cause I don't remember hearing them show up when there's a school shooting. They don't seem to be the ones that show up
No,
for that.
they're not. They're not.
So what is their purpose?
Good point. Good point. I knew I married you for a reason. You have a good head on your shoulders,
Thank
and
you.
it's pretty.
Oh, thanks. Okay, thank you.
All right. Look, enough of the IRS. Let's talk
Yeah.
about something fun and
Oh, okay.
positive.
All right.
Now it's time for our home defense show hero of the week. Who's the hero this week,
Oh,
Sarah?
man, this is a good one. Texas family of Taekwondo black belts save a woman from being raped and pinned down the suspect. An entire family of Taekwondo black belts saved a woman from being sexually assaulted in Texas after hearing her terrified screams for help and quickly pinned down the suspect. The On family sprung into action after hearing the victim's unsettling shrieks from inside a mobile phone store next to their martial arts studio. Yong-in Taekwondo in Cyprus on Tuesday afternoon, authorities said. Grandmaster Han An, an 8th degree black belt and South Korean military vet, quickly sprinted outside, trailed closely by his wife and their 3 kids. They found the suspect, identified by cops as 19-year-old Alex Robinson, allegedly attacking the woman and trying to hold his hand over her mouth. It took just moments for An to take the alleged perp out with a kick and a punch. He just kept him in the corner. He just kept pushing down. Automatic self-defense, automatic Taekwondo style. An's son, Simon An, 20, told KHOU. You wouldn't really expect it in an everyday situation, but when the time comes, it's very valuable, he added of the family's martial arts training. An's wife, Hong, and their daughter, Hannah, quickly rushed the victim next door to the safety of their Taekwondo studio until cops descended on the scene, making sure that she's okay because she needed that after that experience, after that situation that happened out of nowhere, Hannah, 22, told the outlet. Authorities found the An family still holding Robinson to the ground when they arrived. Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez said, by utilizing their training and discipline, they managed to stop the assault and hold him, the sheriff said in a statement.
Wow.
Yeah.
Texas. Don't mess with Texas.
Don't mess with Texas. Well, yeah.
Texas Taekwondo.
This is awesome. Great job, family. That was amazing.
Yeah, that was really good. One of the things that I always recommend for all of my students is some type of open-handed skills. Whether it's, any of the martial arts, Taekwondo or Krav Maga, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. There's just all kinds of really good things. You don't have to be Bruce Lee, but you have to be able to take a punch and give a punch and grapple and be able to fight with people, because a lot of times, even if you have a gun, 85% of altercations don't rise to the level of deadly force. Mm-hmm. So, well, it's good to have those skills.
It was a state of mind thing, too. I mean, not just the dad, but the whole family ran to the rescue of this.
It was automatic.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't hesitate. They just sprang into action. And it's like, those are the kind of people that we want more of. Yeah. They're protectors, they're defenders.
Proactive. Making things
they
safe.
make you safer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They make me safer.
Yeah.
So, hey, I like it. The An family.
Great job.
In Texas, good job, and keep up the good work. All right, Sarah, what's coming up in the next segment?
All right, next we are talking to Cynthia Hogg, author of the new book, Miracle on the Mayflower, John Howland's Remarkable Rescue and Lasting Impact on America. Then, in the ShootingClasses.com self-defense report, we'll be speaking with self-defense instructor Vann Winn from Reticent Warrior Tactics in our ShootingClasses.com self-defense report.
Yeah, we're going to like the next segment, Miracle on the Mayflower. I read that book. It was an awesome book, and so stay tuned for that. All right, in the meantime, God bless and stay safe, because we will be right back.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to ShootingClasses.com.
At Center Shot Gun Range, we are passionate about training. Don't know where to start? We offer a 1-hour new shooter seminar to introduce you to the world of firearms and help you find training opportunities specific to you. Concealed carry, home defense, firearm safety, AR-15, private one-on-one training, custom training, or maybe you're on a security team looking to protect your church or business. We even offer weekday morning and evening classes. Center Shot Gun Range has you covered. Start your journey at centershotgunrange.com.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to ShootingClasses.com.
Attention business owners. Are you leaving your website open to security issues and hacking due to a lack of maintenance or overseas outsourcing? Don't let that happen to your business. Choose experienced U.S.-based website developers that can customize your website to fit your specific needs. Appletree MediaWorks has been growing businesses online since 2009. With over 80 years of combined experience, their team conducts constant research and development to keep up with ever-changing online threats. Your website deserves the best protection available. Call Appletree Media Works today at 877-977-1364 to keep your website secure and grow your business online. Or visit appletree.media.
Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If this sounds good to you, you sound good to me. And I'd like to help you do those things. Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If you're looking for more excitement in your life, we have nothing to offer you. But if you are a thoughtful, responsible, nonviolent man or woman, we'd love to teach you what to do if something crazy happens. More importantly, we'd like to teach you what not to do. We currently have over 500,000 members. They are doctors and single moms and firemen and grandmothers and veterans and Democrats and Republicans and members of every faith. But the one thing they all have in common is that they know exactly what to do if something crazy happens. When you're with one of our members, you are safe. Our members know how to de-escalate situations. They know how to calm things down. We are the United States Concealed Carry Association. See what we're all about at usconcealedcarry.com.
Discover the little-known backstory of the U.S. Concealed Carry Association at usconcealedcarry.com.
He's old, he's cranky, his back hurts, and he can't remember where he put his car keys. But his mother still loves him. Welcome back to the Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was the beautiful and sultry voice of Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show. Folks, we live in a dangerous world, and I want you to be able to protect and defend the ones you love. And that's why I have this show. It's my way of empowering you to accomplish one of your primary jobs in life. You are a protector and a defender. All right, listeners, before we get too far into the show, don't forget to check out our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, ShootingClasses.com, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range, and Appletree Media. Without our sponsors, this show wouldn't be on the air, so we thank you all. And now I'd like to welcome a friend of mine to the show. She's Cynthia Hogg, author of the new book, Miracle on the Mayflower, John Howland's Remarkable Rescue and Lasting Impact on America. Cindy, welcome to the Home Defense Show.
Thank you.
This is your first interview, isn't it?
It is, yes. So thank you.
Well, all right. Well, that's fantastic. Sara, say hi to our guest.
Hello. So glad to have you here.
Nice to be
All right.
here.
Well, Cindy, why don't you start out? This is your first book. Is this your first published book?
It is not. It is actually my third published book.
Okay.
The first in this genre, historical. It's my first full-length book. Let's put it that way.
Oh, okay. Tell us about the first two.
Well, one was a rather short one, an introduction to skip gen travel, which is I have actually within the next week or two a full-length book about skip gen travel. For those who don't know, skip gen travel is grandparents traveling with their grandkids without the middle generation, the parents along. So it's a kind of a different dynamic. It's something I enjoy doing with my 11 grandchildren. So that was one. And then the other one was about Saint Isidora, who was an early fool for Christ. And that is a children's book.
Oh, cool.
That's wonderful.
I didn't even know about
That's okay.
those. So, hey, we'll have to check those out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, now tell us about Miracle on the Mayflower. First, maybe why did you write this book?
Well, this was not an incident in history that I learned about in school. Let me say that. It's a very tiny footnote in history. But once you unpack it, you realize it's not that small of an incident. But again, I didn't learn it in school. I learned it through family genealogy. We are descended from, I think it's 6 different passengers on the Mayflower. My father was very involved in genealogy, and then my younger son has picked up where my dad had to leave off. And so we were talking about the different ones that we were descended from, and my son casually mentioned, gee, it's a good thing he didn't drown or we wouldn't be here. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, oh, well, John Howland was washed overboard during a violent storm halfway across the Atlantic. And so we started talking about that. And the fascinating thing for me was not the fact that we exist because he didn't drown, but who else exists or existed because he didn't drown. And that to me was the more fascinating aspect of this because it includes 3 US presidents, Emerson, Longfellow, Dr. Spock, the baby doctor. I mean, there's just all kinds of well-known people, as well as some fascinating people who are maybe not quite as well known, but who have impacted history in their own way. So as I say, I thought this was such a fascinating story. I thought, well, someone has probably already written about it. And so I researched and no one had. So I thought, I will write that book. So it was very interesting to me to learn more about John Howland, first of all. I call him the Teflon Pilgrim
Okay.
because nothing bad ever stuck to him. He was not an important person when he boarded the Mayflower. In fact, he was an indentured servant. But he survived. He survived so many different things. First of all was the rescue at sea, which a friend of mine is a retired Navy chaplain, and he told me that when even with all of our more sophisticated life-saving measures during a violent storm on the Atlantic, if someone is washed overboard, you can usually assume they're gone. But in this case, he was rescued. The sailors risked their lives to pull him back on board. And the interesting thing there too is that the sailors really didn't like the Pilgrims, were not thrilled to have them on board, made fun of them, even tormented them. And yet, when push came to shove, they risked their lives and pulled him back on board. So that's the first thing. And then that first winter, when so many of them died, half of them, John Howland survived. And then he married a girl named Elizabeth Tilley, who also came over on the Mayflower, also survived that first winter. They went on to
There wasn't there a lot of sickness that first winter?
the first winter was brutal, Skip, just brutal. I mean, when you read about the details, how they were starving. And not only that, they had all kinds of diseases and they had so many deaths and they were so concerned about attacks by Native Americans who were watching this little settlement take form that they would prop these people up, some cases, certainly the ones that were sick, in some cases, even new corpses, they would prop them up so it would indicate that their losses were not as great as they were. It was,
So like scarecrows, right? Human scarecrows.
yeah. So
Wow.
I mean, they arrived much later than they had intended. They didn't intend to arrive in November. They intended to arrive later in the summer. So they arrived, they had already depleted their onboard supplies. They had no shelter. It was really brutal. So it was no wonder that the casualties were so high. But John Howland survived that winter, and Elizabeth Tilley survived that winter. She was orphaned, and so the two of them were married later on, had 10 children, all of whom survived into adulthood and had large families.
Wow, that's real unusual for that time, isn't it?
Very much so. Very much so. So they went on to have 88 grandchildren.
Oh, gosh.
And I think I have a lot with 11.
Yeah, well, we have 19, and I think that's a lot, but I don't think we're going to make that many at all.
I think you probably couldn't even maybe remember all their names.
Oh, yeah, I can
88.
remember their names. When Sarah helps me, I can remember their names, and I think she has their birthdays written down someplace.
Not memorized. It's sad.
Yeah. All right.
Wow,
Well,
88.
Very hardy stock, fortunately. And because he was an indentured servant, the couple that he was indentured to did not survive that first winter. And so he became a free man and he never looked back from then on.
he became a landowner, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned a few of the descendants, Longfellow and Emerson.
Mm-hmm.
I studied them in college. I was a history minor, English major. and who was that? Emerson was like the transcendent eye or something. That's all I remember about that. It didn't really interest me.
Yeah, he's actually very influential. If you delve deeper, he's the most quoted American, more
Hmm.
so than any of the presidents, any of the other authors or whatever. At the end of the book, I included a number of quotes from all these people. They were a very quotable lot. You read the quotes from Emerson, you would recognize that you've heard many of those throughout your lifetime. So yeah, but the interesting things from the point of view of history, not that Emerson and Longfellow were not important in history, but it's the three presidents that were descendants of John Howland. And again, because he didn't drown, later two of his brothers followed him to the United States. And they also had important descendants, including a president. And his one brother, his descendant was Winston Churchill, because
Wow.
Churchill's mother was an American. So FDR was one of the three presidents that was descended from him. And so I think, my goodness, you take FDR and Winston Churchill out of history.
Oh,
How
yeah.
Yeah.
how would World War II have been different, possibly? You
Yeah.
know?
Well,
Wow.
yeah, it reminds me of, I have like two favorite Christmas movies, right? One is Die Hard, with Bruce Willis, which I know people say, well, that's not a Christmas movie, but you're wrong. It is. And the other one is It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh,
And yeah,
yes, yes.
Clarence the Angel, he makes that one statement. He says, one man's life touches so many others, and when he's not there, it leaves an awfully big hole. That's
Exactly.
profound.
Exactly. And that's what I think is one of the messages of this story, the importance of a single life. Like I say, John Howland was poor. He was not uneducated. He had really applied himself to become educated, but he was sort of self-educated. But he was certainly, as an indentured servant, not anyone who was important. And yet his life mattered. And let's talk about the sailors too. I find this very interesting. They were uneducated. We don't even know their names in most cases. There's a few that had their names listed on on the list of passengers, but they changed history also, because they they risked their lives to rescue this man. And when they pulled this sopping wet pilgrim out of the Atlantic Ocean during a storm, I'm sure they never dreamed that what they were doing would have such an impact down the line. And I think it speaks really to all of us. We don't realize, and we may never realize in this lifetime, the impact that we have.
Yeah.
Say I'm sure that was the farthest thing from their minds, that we have to pull this man out of the ocean, or history will be so different. But it's not just that incident. I think we can extrapolate from that for all of us, for each of us, we don't know what impact we might be having. And so for myself, I think, okay, just today, just do the right thing, do the next right thing, do the
Mhm.
next best thing. And you don't know what ripples that might have in other people's lives, or down the road in history.
Yeah, I agree. Most often, when someone tells you how you're impacting their life, it's a negative thing. And it's like, when I screw up, when I say the wrong thing, someone is there to tell me, say, hey, Skip, you screwed up. But the times that are, and that's a daily thing, okay? but the times that are special to me personally is when someone comes to me and says, hey, I just want you to know that when you did this or when you said this, that made me feel really good, or it prompted me to do something good or something like that. And the story that you've written, It's inspiring to me because it reminds me that my life does touch so many others and that I need to keep doing it and not take myself for granted. I mean, God certainly values me, and he valued John Howland as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I sort of take from that too is to now when I can tell, like you just described, but tell people when they have impacted me. And I have done that more recently, saying, thank you for when you did or said this or that. I really thought about it, and it changed me in some way. And a lot of times they don't even remember the incident. So
Mm.
that again illustrates that we don't always realize the impact that our words or actions have, something that we might have thought was unimportant. The interconnectedness of all of our lives is just
Yeah.
fascinating, I think.
Well, we're a community. We are all interconnected, and sometimes, actually, most times, you'll never find out how you impacted someone's life for the better.
Mhm.
I remember there was a guy that called me, and he had been going through a divorce, a really tough time in his life, and he called me up and he said, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that you saved my life." And I said, "How did I do that? I don't remember doing that, right?" And
Mhm.
he said, "Well, you would send me every week. You would text me and send me encouraging messages, and that saved my life. It kept me going, and it just encouraged me. So you just never know. So yeah, I think you should go out of your way to impact other people positively, and that's a lot of what this book is all about."
Mm. Mhm.
Cindy, tell people how they can get a hold of this book.
All right, it's available on Amazon as an ebook and paperback and also in hardcover.
All right, Amazon.com. I've read it. It's a fantastic book. So I highly encourage you guys to get out there and read this book. You're going to learn a lot about the Pilgrims that you didn't know, and it's almost like a supplement to history, because of all the different famous people that you talk about in there. So I'm thinking our homeschoolers should
Yeah.
should read this book.
Yeah, we're looking for good reading material. So
All
I
right.
think. Oh, I did want to ask how much of it's fictional and how much of it is historical. Like, are you calling it historical fiction or like amplified
No,
history?
I would say amplified history more is more accurate. There's a little bit where I had to speculate in some of the times in their early days after they landed, like why people were grouped together in certain households and things like that, or else what he was thinking, when he's in the
Right.
water.
Right. Yeah.
Unless you got a diary there, you probably don't have that. Okay.
Exactly. So, I mean, there's a little bit of that, but certainly the second half of the book is where I profile 17 descendants, including FDR and both President Bush's. Those are the three presidents.
So,
And
so it's a bipartisan book. Democrats and Republicans can read this book.
absolutely is, yes. And I try to go right down the middle because in each case, probably more the political figures than the authors, but I have actresses and authors and scientists, and they're all in there. But certainly the political characters, they're going to be people who love them and people who hate them, and
Yeah.
so I tried to present what I felt was a balanced view of each one.
All right. Well, the name of the
Thank
book
you.
is Miracle on the Mayflower, John Howland's Remarkable Rescue and Lasting Impact on America. And you can get that on Amazon.com. So, Cindy, thank you very much for being on the Home Defense Show today.
Thank you for having me, Skip.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, this is Skip Coriel on Home Defense Show. Coming up next, we'll have the shootingclasses.com self-defense report, where we get some expert advice on the details of self-defense. But during the break, I want you to log into rumble.com and search on the Home Defense Show. I've posted a series of entertaining and educational videos there just for you. Check them out, and don't forget to like, share, and follow. God bless and stay safe, because we will be right back.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
At Centershot Gun Range, we are passionate about training. Don't know where to start? We offer a 1-hour new shooter seminar to introduce you to the world of firearms and help you find training opportunities specific to you. Concealed carry, home defense, firearm safety, AR-15, private one-on-one training, custom training, or maybe you're on a security team looking to protect your church or business. We even offer weekday morning and evening classes. Centershot Gun Range has you covered. Start your journey at centershotgunrange.com.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
Attention business owners. Are you leaving your website open to security issues and hacking due to a lack of maintenance or overseas outsourcing? Don't let that happen to your business. Choose experienced U.S.-based website developers that can customize your website to fit your specific needs. Appletree MediaWorks has been growing businesses online since 2009. With over 80 years of combined experience, their team conducts constant research and development to keep up with ever-changing online threats. Your website deserves the best protection available. Call Appletree MediaWorks today at 877-977-1364 to keep your website secure and grow your business online. Or visit appletree.media.
Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If this sounds good to you, you sound good to me. And I'd like to help you do those things. Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If you're looking for more excitement in your life, we have nothing to offer you. But if you are a thoughtful, responsible, nonviolent man or woman, we'd love to teach you what to do if something crazy happens. More importantly, we'd like to teach you what not to do. We currently have over 500,000 members. They are doctors and single moms and firemen and grandmothers and veterans and Democrats and Republicans and members of every faith. But the one thing they all have in common is that they know exactly what to do if something crazy happens. When you're with one of our members, you are safe. Our members know how to de-escalate situations. They know how to calm things down. We are the United States Concealed Carry Association. See what we're all about at usconcealedcarry.com.
Discover the little-known backstory of the U.S. Concealed Carry Association at usconcealedcarry.com.
The mere sound of his voice makes women swoon and men storm the gates of hell. Welcome back to the Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was the beautiful and sultry voice of Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show, and I'm your host, Skip Coryell. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, shootingclasses.com, Appletree Media, and Centershot Indoor Gun Range for all your training and equipment needs. And now it's time for our weekly self-defense report, sponsored by shootingclasses.com. And today we're speaking with self-defense instructor Vann Winn from the great state of Georgia. Vann, thanks for coming back on the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Skip. Good to be here.
Yeah, and it's hot. You just told me it's hot down there, like 80 degrees. That's like desert hot.
Yeah, well, it was in the 80s yesterday. Today it's only about 75, so a little cool spell here in Savannah.
Well, you're just going to have to suck it up.
And I think you said you had snow yesterday?
Yeah, we had snow yesterday, but yeah, it didn't stick. April snow is it's just an inconvenience.
Snow in Savannah is a major ordeal.
Yes, I know. All right.
We've had it a few times since I've lived here. Interesting.
All right. Well, we have got quite an interesting article here to read. I'm going to launch into it, and then I'll get your take on it, okay?
Sounds good.
All right. It says a Milwaukee man is accused of shooting at a neighbor more than a dozen times over a parking dispute. Prosecutors say 32-year-old Remington Baraja got out of prison last year and was ordered to not possess any guns. Now he's back in jail. According to prosecutors, Barrage was peeved at a neighbor about where they parked to the point of shooting at them on more than one occasion. One incident was caught on surveillance video. Police responded to a shot spotter report near 28th and Ruby on June 1st. A criminal complaint says the victim flagged down officers and said his neighbor had shot at him over a parking space. The victim said he legally parks on the street, but Barrage doesn't like it, as the victim often parks in front of or near Barrage's home. The argument became heated, and the victim said Barrage pulled a gun and pointed at him as he ran away. He said he saw bullets hitting the ground as he ran. Prosecutors say 14 9mm casings were recovered at the scene, and this incident was caught on camera. The next day, on June 2nd, the victim said he returned home from work and parked across from Barrage's home. I think I'd have parked a block away, but soon Barrage came outside holding a firearm, prosecutors say. He asked the victim, "You still on that stuff from yesterday?" Victim replied, "Of course. You shot at me." Barrage then left in an SUV. An investigation revealed Barrage was on Department of Corrections supervision with a listed address near 28th and Ruby. A search warrant was executed on June 7. Barrage wasn't home, the complaint says, but items belonging to him were found in the home, along with 9mm ammunition and a woman with a handgun in her purse. On July 17, another shot spotter alert sent officers back to the neighborhood where two children told investigators they heard someone say, "I should have killed you the first time," followed by a shot. The victim said he was shot at while he went to a corner store. He said Barrage pulled up and said, "Do you remember me? Police went into my house and got guns and drugs. It wasn't that serious. You didn't need to call the cops. The 14 shots were a warning. You could have kept it in the streets and shot back at me. I've been following you, and I know where you work." During the discussion, the victim told investigators Barrage was displaying a gun before driving off. Then near Atkinson, he fired one time, the complaint said. A spent 10mm casing was recovered. In all, Barrage is charged with 5 counts. First-degree recklessly endangering safety using a dangerous weapon, stalking, use of a dangerous weapon, endangering safety by use of a dangerous weapon, and possession of a firearm by a felon, 2 counts. All right, that's a lot to unpack, Van, so why don't you go ahead and get us started?
Well, I might have to go with you. Like, I don't understand why the neighbor parked in front of this guy's house.
No.
Well, I guess one of the thing that pops out obviously is this guy doesn't have the ability to talk to someone and have a reasonable conversation. And I'm real curious as to why he wasn't charged with attempted murder. I mean, his charges seem pretty light for what he did.
Yeah.
The first thing that really stands out about, obviously this is probably a pretty rough neighborhood. I don't know how everybody else does it, but most towns, if there's a shot spotter system in place, it's generally in, the rougher neighborhoods that have a tendency to have that issue. Certainly that way in Savannah. So
yeah. Well, apparently
shot spotters, it doesn't mean you're bad, but it just means there's some bad stuff that tends to happen in your neighborhood. And you can't help it. If that's where you live and that's all you can afford, that's what you got to do. But I don't get this guy not being charged with attempted murder. He's out on jail. He was a heroin drug dealer. He got convicted of that. He's out of jail. He's on supervised release. He gets a 9mm. He shoots at this guy 14 times. Either he's a really bad shot or maybe he really wasn't trying to kill him. I don't know. But if bullets are hitting around the guy and he can see them bouncing off the pavement, I would say the guy's probably just a bad shot. But then after the police come, take some, that about 6 days, they come back and hit the guy's house with search warrant. They recover the gun, they recover some drugs, and Barrage doesn't learn his lesson. He goes and gets another gun and shoots at the guy again with a 10mm. So, I mean, talking about people that aren't learning their lesson, and I'm surprised the victim isn't dead, to be quite honest.
Yeah, me too. He upgraded from a 9mm to a 10mm, went back and tried to solve the problem again. Apparently, Milwaukee must be a rough neighborhood, and if there's no blood, there's no foul. So
he just said should have kept this in the street, and not called the police. You could have shot back at me. I'm like, well, I wonder how that would have worked.
Oh, for sure. Probably most people. I mean, if you live long enough, you're probably going to have a bad neighbor. But this is not just a bad neighbor. This is like the neighbor from hell.
Oh, yes.
And gosh, I do not understand why the victim here kept parking in the same spot. And I'm just thinking maybe he's not the sharpest tool in the shed either.
Yeah, well, looking at I know the listeners can't see the photo of this, but the neighborhood, this photo that I see of the houses look really close together. They're smaller homes and they're close together on the street. So, I mean, it would, if, and it's parking is not a sign. You park anywhere you can park because these houses, looks like none of them have driveways or garages. So people have to park on the street. I don't
Yeah.
see what the issue is with somebody parking in front of your house, especially to shoot at them. But I'm like you. I think if I'd have been the neighbor, I'd have parked the other way. If I had to walk a little bit, I don't think I'd have parked back in front of that guy's house.
Well, I'm guessing, most of the time these articles, they don't give you everything, and everything doesn't come out until, there's a trial. And even then, a lot of evidence is suppressed and testimony and things like that. But I'm guessing there's probably more of a history here
Oh yeah,
than
very
is
well
letting
could be.
on.
I mean, it sounds legit like it probably is over parking, but kind of like you said, you never know. This could be about something totally unrelated to parking. This could be about a drug deal gone bad, but it's likely what it is. I mean, I think it sounds like the victim reported this a couple of times for the same type of thing, and based on what he's saying, the guy said to him, I guess that's what it is.
Yeah. I'm thinking, Van, I've lived in a neighborhood like that before. Early in my life, I spent like 20 years in the big city. I
Oh
lived
yeah,
in a neighborhood similar to that. And when everyone's all congested and they're crammed in together like that, it's like, 200 people being in the same swimming pool. You have to be a lot more polite, go out of your way to get along and all of that stuff. But, and I remember that. But if I had a neighbor like that, I would just say, okay, it's time for me to move. I'll do whatever I have to do. I'll rent someplace else. I'll live in a trailer park. I don't care, but I'm not having a neighbor like that because, man, your life is in danger at that point.
yeah. I mean, I get it. You don't want to let people bully you around and keep you from living your life, but on the same token, this is a lot more than bullying. This is a guy shooting at you twice.
Yeah.
So I think the first time he shot 14 rounds at the guy. So that's enough to make me go, hey, it's time to move on. Forget this guy because it doesn't do you any good to stand up for your rights if you get dead while you're doing it.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, you can say, oh, it's 14 rounds. He's a lousy shot, but the guy's alive, but not for a lack of trying to kill him. And eventually, he's gonna hit what he's aiming at. So I guess I would tell the listeners, first off, try as hard as you can to get along with your neighbors because you do not want to have to deal with stuff like this. And these days, people are just so much on edge that the littlest thing can set people off these days.
Oh, absolutely. I heard one guy say, treat everybody you meet like they're 5 minutes from becoming an active shooter. They're
Yeah.
5 minutes away from becoming an active shooter. So that way, if something does happen, they don't shoot you. So
Yeah, that's right. Don't make them mad. And it seems like on the active shooter part, I've heard testimony about, active shooters going in and, they're shooting people, but then they'll see someone who's been kind to them and they'll skip over them and
yeah,
go and shoot somebody else. I want to be the person that they skip over.
yeah,
That's my
absolutely.
goal.
Yeah, well, as do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. You just treat people like you want to be treated, and it doesn't sound like either one of these guys probably did that.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess another thing, you already mentioned this, park someplace else. I mean, you already know you're on the guy's list, so why exacerbate it by parking in the same spot? That maybe some ego was involved there. I don't know.
Oh, absolutely, and that's the biggest problem with guys. It doesn't say how old the victim was, but it seems like the younger fellas are, the more likely they are to have an ego. Of course, Raj is 32, but it doesn't say how old the victim was. So that's always something that's going to come into play. I think is ego.
You have to factor in drugs too.
Oh yeah. Of course, you'd think if he was on heroin, he'd be a little bit more laid back. stuff,
Oh,
stuff.
maybe that's why you missed.
Could be. Well, here's the other thing. I know you got a big pro Second Amendment people that listen to this. The politicians are always making laws to make it more restrictive on good citizens to get guns, to shoot guns, to own guns, to carry guns. Here's a guy who's a convicted drug dealer, and he got two different guns within a week of each other, pretty easily, seems like, and then used them. So laws against citizens really doesn't help anything.
But here where I live, if I were to shoot at my neighbor, the cops would be here in probably 10 minutes. And I live in the country, but it's not something that they just say, oh, well, we'll have to schedule a drive-by next week. I don't understand that.
Even the very first ones, they didn't respond to him calling the police. They responded to a shot spotter report.
Yes, that's right.
So the system picked up shots. Of course, 14 shots is easy to pick up, and so it picks up all those shots, and the police responded to that, and I guess then the victim flags them down.
Well, Van, I had never heard of a shot spotter. I had to look it up on the internet because I wasn't sure what it was. Living out in the country, it's okay. Yeah, we don't have shot spotters, but we go
off and every time somebody went deer hunting.
That's right. I mean, we target practice a lot, and rabbit hunt, whatever. Shots are always going off, and we think nothing of it. But in the city, I can understand why. Yeah, it's a little bigger deal.
Yeah, well, you're not supposed to be shooting guns in the city to begin with, but yeah, and they installed it here in several places in Savannah, and it seems to work well. When the police respond to that, unfortunately, the criminals know that system is there. They know about it. So by the time the police respond, unless they're just Johnny on the spot, everybody's gone by the time they get there, generally.
All right. So the key takeaways, boil it down for us. What should people do if they get in this situation?
Well, first of all, treat people like you would want to be treated. Be respectful. Leave your ego out of everything if you can, because you don't want to get into social violence. You want to keep away from that stuff. And then, the victim, one thing we didn't mention is the victim ran away. And that is a good ego check. When somebody pulls a gun, leave. And the victim did that. Maybe the only reason he is alive is because he ran, and the guy shot at him. So I think that's a huge one. And at least I give the victim credit for at least following up with the police and getting this guy put back in prison.
Yeah, that's a good idea. But how fast can you run? Like 1,300 feet per second?
Yeah, you can't run that fast, I'm sure.
All right. Well, Van, thank you very much for your analysis. Before you take off, go ahead and tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Sure. You can find us online at our website, reticentwarriortactics.com. Also on Facebook, Instagram, and now a little bit on YouTube.
Okay. Well, Van, thank you very much for being on the Home Defense Show today.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you having me, Skip. Good to talk to you again.
All right, folks, that about wraps it up for this week's show. I've had a good time, and I hope you have too. Please don't forget to thank our sponsors, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range at centershotgunrange.com, shootingclasses.com to help you find the right trainer for your needs, Apple Tree Media for website security, and United States Concealed Carry Association. For all your self-defense needs, go to uscca.com. All right, folks, I've written 20-plus books, and they're all available on Amazon.com in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. This week, check out my book, Blood in the Streets, Concealed Carry in the OK Corral. It's all about the politics of deadly force. And also check out the Home Defense Show videos on rumble.com. And if you want training from me in person, then check out Midwest Tactical Training at shootingclasses.com. Please join us again next week for all your home defense needs. In the meantime, God bless and stay safe.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Home Defense Show. Now, get out there and protect the ones you love. We'll see you next week with more of the best.
Bye-bye, boys!
Have fun storming the castle!